Welcome to Beyond Truth, the show where we dive into the minds of scientists, innovators, and visionaries. I'm your host, Dr. Sonia Balyan, and today we have the honor of sitting down with a true luminary in the field of technology and academia.
Our esteemed guest today is none other than Professor V. Ramgopal Rao, who currently holds the distinguished position of Group Vice-Chancellor at BITS Pilani institutions. Professor Rao is also recognized as the J.C. Bose National Fellow, highlighting his exceptional contribution to the field. During his illustrious career, Professor Rao has served in various eminent roles, including as the Pillai Chair Professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering at IIT Delhi. Notably, he assumed the pivotal role of director at IIT Delhi for a tenure spanning 6 years from April 2016 to February 2022. Prior to his role at IIT Delhi, Professor Rao made significant contributions during his faculty tenure at IIT Bombay. Here, he held several esteemed positions, including that of Institute Chair Professor within the Department of Electrical Engineering. He also played a pivotal role as the Chief Investigator of the Indian Nanoelectronics Users Program and served as the head of the Center for Research in Nanotechnology. His academic journey includes a PhD in electrical engineering from Germany, furthering his expertise in the field. Additionally, he gained valuable research experience as postdoctoral fellow at the University of California. Furthermore, his commitment to knowledge exchange and global collaboration is evident through his short-term visiting positions at renowned institutions across the world, further enriching his diverse and illustrious career. Professor Rao's extensive research interests span a diverse array of pioneering domains within the field of electrical engineering and nanotechnology. These include nanoelectronics, nano-fabricated sensor systems, technology-aware design challenges with emerging technologies, including CMOS technology, and also biological micro-electromechanical systems. These multifaceted interests underscore his unwavering commitment to the exploration and advancement of technology endowed with transformative potential. Professor Rao has established himself as a prominent figure in the realm of nanoelectronics, boasting an impressive portfolio of over 480 research papers and 50 patents, including several book chapters and books in this specialized field. Furthermore, his dedication to innovation extends beyond academia. Professor Rao has co-founded two thriving startups, Soilsens and Nanosniff, both of which have successfully introduced innovative products to the market. This entrepreneurial spirit highlights his ability to translate cutting-edge research into practical solutions that impact industry and society at large.
Professor Rao has received many awards and honors for his research and leadership, including the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize, Infosys Prize, and the IEEE EDS Education Awards, to name few. Then he is also the fellow of several prestigious academic societies. Also, Professor Rao is a name synonymous with the groundbreaking research, transformative leadership, and a relentless pursuit of innovation. With a career spanning decades, Professor Rao's journey has been marked by the pioneering contribution in the field of semiconductor devices and nanoelectronics, and his insights have shaped the landscape of technology as we know it. Professor Rao has not only been a prolific researcher but also a visionary leader, and his tenure at IIT Bombay and IIT Delhi has exemplified the seamless integration of academia with the industry, resulting in numerous success stories that bridge the gap between the research and the real-world applications. So, without a further ado, let's dive into the episode of Beyond Shodh with our esteemed guest, Professor Ramgopal Rao. A warm welcome to you, sir, and thank you so much for providing us the opportunity to interact with you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me and having me on your show.
Thank you so much, sir. So, sir, could you please share with us a brief overview of your research and the professional journey for our listeners?
Yeah. My research has been in two tracks since the time I have joined IIT Bombay. So I work on CMOS technologies, these are the technologies that are used in almost 90% of semiconductor chips. These are known as the complementary metal oxide semiconductor technologies, which for example go into the mobile phones.
Okay.
Now what do we want in the mobile phone? You want a longer battery life and you want more functionality in the mobile phones. So that's what my research primarily has been. So I have been working on electron devices that can reduce the power consumption so that your battery life can last longer and also add more functionalities to the mobile phone, the chips, so that you can have, for example, video calling, connection of a lot of technologies that require different voltage platforms, bringing them on top of the silicon on chip, the system on chip kind of platforms inside a mobile phone. So diverse functionalities, their integration on a chip. So that is what I have primarily been working on in the CMOS area. Most of the work I have done for CMOS is with large semiconductor industries. And for example, I have at least a dozen patents, US patents with Intel. And most of these technologies are now in commercial production. A lot of Intel chips, for example, use the technologies for which we have the IP jointly shared. And so that has been one side of my work, which is related to mobile phones, reducing the battery consumption, adding more functionalities to the mobile phone. While on the other side, my work has been on sensors and sensor platforms. And here I started my activity working on for developing a cardiac diagnostic kind of a chip. And then that led me into developing an explosive detector. And me along with a large group of faculty, we built a multidisciplinary team at IIT Bombay. 6 departments were involved in that. And we, at the end of the whole project, we were able to come up with a explosive detector, which is a totally disruptive technology, a micro sensor based technology, which is not used anywhere in the world. So we were able to innovate on that. We then started a company called Nanosniff at IIT Bombay. That was in 2011. And then we brought in founders, co-founders. And so that company has successfully launched the explosive detector product known as the Nanosniffer. And that's now there in multiple airports. At least 11 airports have bought this technology now. And it's now, it's because it's a totally disruptive technology as compared to anything that is currently being used in the airports. It's getting a lot of traction. It is much cheaper and it also, is much easier to use. And the bill of materials is also low and the maintenance costs are low. So that way, any tender where we participate, we can beat all the specs, meet all the specifications of any other technology, but we are also cheaper. So that is now, making, I am confident it will make a big impact in the security space. And then another company I started was in 2018, that's the Soilsens. So I started a large project on agricultural sensors because I always thought that Indian agriculture is still done in a very traditional, very ancient kind of a way. As a result, our productivity levels are very low. And our input costs are also very high because farmers tend to, indiscriminately use all these fertilizers and, pesticides and all of that without any proper, measurement of what the soil actually requires. So our idea was to develop sensors which are very low cost, which the farmers can use, in the field to know the soil health. And based on that, the farmers can actually utilize or use whatever is the right proportion of the nutrient that they require. And this is the second company, Soilsens. So both these companies are now run by my ex-PhD students. And while I am a co-founder for both these companies, so now there is a board and they are able to do very well and these technologies are in the market. So on one side, while I work with large corporations, in improving the technologies for mobile phones, on the other hand, I am connected with the grassroots requirements, whether it is security requirements or the farmer requirements. So that's how I have always been working on now. And I'm working on other healthcare sensors right now. I have a project where, something related to cancer, the radiation therapy related technologies. So I'm also working on it. So I think my work has always been to, of course, not only, publish good quality papers in the top journals in the world, but also apply this science to develop technology which is locally useful.
Science for society.
Exactly. So while science is global, the technology is local. So that is what I believe in, and I have always been connected with the requirements at the grassroots level. And now whatever projects I take up, I'm always looking at a system in mind, a product in mind, a prototype in mind, while I will still do fundamental research, but all of that leads towards building, a product or a prototype. I may not be successful all the time, which doesn't happen in any research, but now I have found the formula to make things work on the ground. So I think things are good that way.
So, sir, do you share that formula with your students also?
Right. So now most of my students, I have graduated 53 PhD students. So while many of them have gone on to academic careers and also work in industries all over the world, but among them there are also many industry founders, many company founders, the startup founders, and successful founders for that matter. Some of them are working for startups. I think that because eventually you become what you see. So when they see their faculty member, supervisor doing some of this kind of research, they also want to do something similar. So all my students who have become faculty members in IITs and IASc also now are moving in the direction of founding companies and all of that. So I think that whole culture, I can take some part of that credit at least.
Yes, yes, sir. Actually, very diverse areas of research, not only just technology, but you are also supporting agriculture. You are also supporting security and other aspects. So your research is, accurate example of how the technology or science should transform into a product or for society benefit. So, sir, tell us about little more about this one company, that sensor company.
Nanosniff.
Yes, Nanosniff. So, is it widely used in India only or internationally also they are using this?
So we launched that product during the COVID time. It has nothing to do with COVID, but the product launch happened in MHRD, Ministry of Human Resource Development. Now it's called Ministry of Education. The Union Cabinet Minister launched that product for the nation. That's because we thought that it was all funded by government grants and other things. So it took us quite a bit of time to develop that entire technology. But there, the one of the very interesting ideas we had today, all explosive detection at the airports, if you see, these are all some kind of spectroscopy based systems. That's what they all use. Or there are platforms, there are receptors which bind to vapors of explosives. The reaction is what they measure and all of that. But our technology is totally different from that. It's neither chemistry nor the spectroscopy kind of platforms. So we are looking at more like actually causing an explosion. You collect the explosive particles either from the ambient or from the swipe, and then you actually cause an explosion, a nano explosion, and whatever energy that is released, that energy is what we sense using a temperature sensor. So we cause that explosion using a microheater platform and measure the temperature released because of that exothermic reaction, and that is the platform. So it's a very good physics that way, and the credit goes to the startup which actually took it from a proof of concept that was shown at IIT Bombay to a complete product now which is available in the market, and like I mentioned, 11 airports have bought that now, and it's gaining traction, and more airports are buying that because it's a startup, a new product. Many companies, many big players have apprehensions for an airport to buy something from a unknown company, right? For a security kind of a area is not very easy to convince them that we are as good as whatever they are importing right now. But they tested this product alongside all the known technologies that they have been using. They found that this is much cheaper, much better, totally Indian. So therefore, all the repairs, maintenance, all of that will be pretty easy and developed with government grants. So therefore, the costs have also not skyrocketed. And so I think they are all liking that product right now. And
so
that's
that
my
product is similar with which we see that they just came with some and then gaadi ke niche lagana.
no. That is these are under vehicle kind of scanners. In fact, that company which does under vehicle scanning is also the company that came out of IIT Delhi, Vehan Technologies, and we licensed. In fact, one of the founders of Vehan Technologies, who makes those under vehicle scanners, is also a co-founder of Nanosniff. So we involved them because they are into the security space. We thought that if you suddenly launch a security product and you have no connections to any security kind of agencies, that won't work. So we joined hands with Vehan Technologies. We actually have them as our partners, and then they currently market this product alongside their under vehicle scanner. So It's the same company. In fact, they are making scanners now for airports and all the official buildings and other things. And so we work. It's basically two companies: IIT Delhi founded company, IIT Bombay founded company, coming and getting things into the market. So.
And so Soilsens, how this happened?
The Soilsens, it all happened with a meeting that was arranged by the Principal Scientific Advisor's Office, Dr. Chidambaram at that time. He brought in all the agricultural scientists. He brought in some selected faculty from IITs. I happened to be one of them because he knew me. So we had a day-long meeting in Delhi, and that's when we got exposed to what is that is needed for the farmers. And we had no idea until that time. And after that day-long brainstorming session with the agricultural scientists, we figured out that there are lots of technologies that they require, like soil moisture sensors, nutrient monitoring in the soil. So that opened our eyes to what the farmers require in the country, why their productivity levels are low. And once we got exposed to the problem, then it just opened up many avenues for us. And we also received some funding from the Principal Scientific Advisor's Office. Then the DST, Department of Science and Technology, funded us with a large project. By the time I had moved to IIT Delhi, so it was a project between IIT Delhi and IIT Bombay while I was the PI. And then we had a lot of PhD students working at both the places. And so that's how we were able to develop an NPK sensor, nitrate, phosphate, potassium sensing, which is the low-cost kind of a sensor platform. And in fact, the company made it look so small that it's the world's smallest NPK sensor right now. And it's also very affordable for the farmers and very easy to use. It's based on electrochemistry principles. So the company has been able to successfully launch the product and train a lot of people in the villages who can do their own tests. That company is also now working with multiple states and multiple locations, and working also closely with IARI, Indian Agricultural Research Institute. So all of that has happened, the validation and everything. Now it's available on the product. All these things are available on the GEM portal now, the government e-marketplace portal. So anybody can buy.
That will be a very good tool for the farmers. Earlier also, I think the soil department took the soil samples and then they test and then they give the reports and then. So for them, it's handy. Or maybe in future we could have more advanced devices which can just scan and then let
That's what we want to do. The macro nutrients we want to cover. So our starting point was Government of India has distributed soil health cards to all the farmers. It contains multiple parameters. So we want to have developed technologies for macronutrients and also pH, electrical conductivity kind of parameters. So we right now have NPK, pH, and then the electrical conductivity of soil. So these 5 parameters we can do in one device. And we are also now working on other nutrients needed for the soil. So I think that work is progressing. The goal is to make such extreme low cost technologies fit into a small briefcase and then train women in the villages so that they can also earn a livelihood by providing it as a service.
So sir, how is the response of the farmers?
Response so far has been good. Because now they don't have to send the soil samples to any agricultural labs. They can instead do the tests in the field itself. So that way, I think it takes time. For anyone to use a new technology and move away from the way they have been doing things takes a little bit of time. But we have also now exported one of those systems to Singapore, and to now other countries are also taking notice. And the good thing about all these technologies is there is they are very unique in a way. So all of these have US patents now. The nanosniffer, now we have the US patent, European patent, as well as the Indian patent. So that way nobody can copy the technology. And same is true with the soil sense technologies. These are all patented technologies. So they are unique. They are serving a purpose. They are low cost. So there are, for example, at least 90 countries with GDP levels lower than India. And in many of those African countries and other poorer countries, these technologies can have an immense value. And of course, in any technology is one aspect of it. Developing product is another aspect, but marketing is another major activity. So there you need right kind of teams. And for nanosniffer, thanks to Vehan Technologies, we were able to find the partner because they were already in the security space. So they knew that entire landscape. So it could get into airports and all of that. For the soil sense now, we have already tied up with at least like 5 different big corporations which have presence in the agriculture. So we are now the back-end supplier of technologies to them. So I am confident these technologies will pick up, slowly and can have a huge impact on the ground.
So, sir, you have had an illustrious academic career with a focus on semiconductor devices and technology, as you have already told us. So, could you explain what initially drew you to this field and what keeps you still motivated and
So I had a very rural kind of an upbringing. So I come from a very small place. About when I was growing up, the total population of that small town was about 5,000 people. It's Kolhapur, not Kolhapur in Maharashtra, but Kolhapur in Telangana, which is in the it was in the Mahbubnagar district. Now it comes under the Nagar Karnool district. It's interior Telangana, and it's a tiny little place, and there was not much of a development. I spent my 17 years in that small place, and I studied there in Telugu medium. So until my 12th, I had no exposure to English. It was all Telugu and the local language. And but that was also important in a way. When I look back, that gave me that ground level connect. I have done many things subsequently, traveled to many countries and worked in many countries and all of that. I am always very grounded. I know, even now I make it a point to go every year to that village or a small town. Now it has grown into 15,000 people, 20,000 people kind of a place. And I now connect with the schools there, connect with the school children, and they also get to talk to me, take my advice. I also support them. I do a lot of things in that place, and that keeps me grounded. That at the end of the day, that is important. So while we may do any number of things, but if we forget the places we come from, we don't serve the localities where we have, from where we have benefited so much. I don't think it has much of a meaning in life. So I am still very well connected to my roots, and so I do all of that. So from there, after my 12 year, after 12th standard, 17 years of schooling there, I then joined a local college, and then I did my BTech there. And my turning point was after joining IIT Bombay as a student for MTech, the master's program, and that opened my eyes. And that is where I got in touch with whatever I did subsequently. I came across some of the finest people. I came across teachers who were so much good, so good, and I had never seen anything like that before. And I got exposed to new areas. And as an MTech student, I did very well. For example, some of my work got published in a top journal at that time, which was quite uncommon. And then I also worked on a ISRO-sponsored project, or a project which had applications for ISRO, which was developing radiation-hard technologies for Indian space. We were pretty successful. We were able to show, how to make electronic circuits which are resistant to radiation in the space. And so we were working closely with the ISRO and the space scientists and all of that. So that was also a good ground.
That is in MTech, during MTech?
During my MTech time. And then I liked that place so much. After my MTech, I did not want to do anything else. I wanted to pursue and stay in IIT Bombay. And so my professor also was very happy with me. So Professor J. Vasi, he is a very well-known professor in the nanoelectronics area. And so I continued to work with him. Then I got an opportunity. I wanted to do PhD and continue that line. But then suddenly I got an opportunity to do PhD in Germany, an all paid kind of a fellowship from German government. So I then moved to Germany for doing my PhD. And there I had one of the shortest PhDs. In about 2 years time, I got my PhD.
2 years?
Yeah, so
it is just like dream for us.
It said I got this doctor engineer degree. So I spent 4 months I did a language course, and 2 years I worked very hard. And I used to work because I had nothing else to do. Whenever as a student at IIT Bombay or in the university in Munich, it was always lab. There was nothing else for me. So I would work easily 14 to 16 hours. You just get up, go to the lab, and then hang out there, do experiments, talk to people. You come back in the night and sleep. That was the only way the life was when I was a student for MTech at IIT Bombay, or doctor engineer degree at the university. So that was pretty good. It again gave a lot of exposure. My project was with Siemens at that time. And after my PhD, then I got an offer from University of California, Los Angeles to do a postdoctoral thing. So I moved to UCLA. And there again, I did very well. I was there for close to 2 years. But I wrote when I, out of that postdoctoral work, I wrote something like 36 papers, in top journals, conferences.
In postdoc?
The postdoc work, I would say.
Okay.
So I, in fact, worked on a very novel lateral asymmetric channel transistors, and so we had devices from Stanford done by a graduate student, and so new kind of technologies, new devices, and so it was like a gold mine. You do anything, it becomes new, and so we wrote lots of papers out of that work, and like out of that, my postdoctoral work, 36 papers came out. So we published lots of papers, and so that work also became quite well cited. And by the time IIT Bombay, my professor, was keeping track of all of this that was happening. I was also in touch with IIT Bombay. I was getting offers in the US to take up jobs both in the university as well as in industry. But I wanted to come back. But I was very clear that I wouldn't come back unless it is an IIT faculty position. I was not keen on at that time nothing else. I thought I will come back to India if it is an IIT faculty position. That time there were only 5 IITs, mainly. Of course, there was IIT Guwahati, but other IITs came later. And so I then I wanted to come to either IIT Delhi or IIT Bombay. And but then my professor said, no, why do you want to go anywhere? Why don't you come and join us? And then he convinced me in a way. So, but I did not need much of a convincing actually. So once IIT Bombay offered me a position, within 3 months I came and joined IIT Bombay, and I never looked back. So 1998 I joined IIT Bombay. And so I had a lot of international collaborations. My professor in UCLA was also very happy with me. So was my professor in Germany.
So 36
papers. Exactly. So, and both of them were very supportive of collaborations. So I could go back to their places. I could spend time. I could get involved in their research, and a lot of good things happened because of those international collaborations. And in India also, I continued to be very prolific in terms of research, publishing papers. And by 2098, I joined. In 6 years' time, I got the first major recognition, Swarna Jayanti Fellowship. Then I got the Bhatnagar Prize in 2005, and then I became fellow of INAE, and then one after another, one led to another, and so I think it has been a wonderful career. But around 2006, 2007, I changed tracks a little bit. So I thought publications cannot be everything. So I then started to work in areas where I can build prototypes, and then not just work for industries abroad, but also work on problems which have a societal relevance. So once I started to move very consciously towards working on technologies that have a societal relevance, so that is what led to I started to build groups. I soon realized that the earlier work I was doing on my own because I was good enough, but if you want to develop any technology or any build a prototype, you need a multidisciplinary kind of a team. I realized that alone I cannot do that kind of a work. While I can contribute one part of it, but it requires multiple disciplines to come together. So I started to work closely with multiple departments. We all, we came together, formed a multidisciplinary team. We started to meet weekly. So in fact, the multidisciplinary kind of large projects.
That's within the IIT?
Within IIT Bombay. So I did the largest multidisciplinary project at IIT Bombay ever. Before that, everybody was doing their own work and doing small things and published papers. But I built a large team, and there were good people, of course, some seniors, some juniors, and then we brought many departments together, many faculty members together, started to focus on developing products, more like a product-oriented approach. And not, I always say that there are two types of research. One is, solutions, looking for a problem. So you are working and you have developed a solution, and then you look for a problem where I can apply. So that kind of research, of course, I also did that. But also other type of research is solution to a problem. So there is a problem. Now you put all the teams and all the resources together to solve that problem. So that problem-oriented approach I started in about 2006, 2007 time frame. and that is what led to all these startups and everything. So it was a very conscious decision to be able to publish good papers, be productive in terms of research, which is important, and then connect all of that to the societal requirements, which is the second part. So most of my students are very well placed because of that, and it has given me whatever recognitions that I can gain out of research accomplishments and all of that, but also a satisfaction that I could I was instrumental in bringing teams together and starting activities, and I have started multiple things. I may not be always the person who ended the thing. It's like a relay race. Any technology development, one person doesn't start from the beginning and take it all the way to the end. So we were able to start these projects, do some proof of concept, build some platforms. Then we involve a startup, and then the startup then takes it up and develops it further, invests their resources and private funding and all of that. So that kind of a model we did. So I can take credit for initiating all of that work, taking it up to TRL3, a proof of concept of level, but I don't want to take any credit for taking it all the way to the market. And that would not have happened without me, but it also would not have happened without all those people in the chain. So therefore, that was very important realization that you need that kind of a collaboration.
But sir, as you are pointing out the need of a collaboration, this is a very powerful message for the scientific community. But because we often lack I will do my part and I will not share this with the other group. So this is somehow restricting the knowledge that that can be generated from that work. So this is very important. If you collaborate, you can able to achieve bigger goals.
I think it also depends on at what stage you are in. When you are an assistant professor, you need to establish yourself. You need to do research on your own with your students. You don't want too many collaborations, because when you are going for higher level positions, they will ask, but what is that you did if everything you did was in collaboration? So it's important in the initial phases to establish oneself, and then and then establish yourself as a researcher, somebody who commands respect for what you have done on your own, and then you look for collaborations. I've also seen many young people joining institutions, and from day one trying to collaborate with 10 people, 2 departments, 4 departments. It doesn't work. First you need to, people have to respect you for what you are. And once you do that, then you move on to other things where you can do greater things, through collaboration. So I think there is a different time in the career for different things. If you do that at a time when people won't appreciate that, your career will get hurt. So, and also you once you reach a certain stage, right, you are not looking for, you are happy. I mean, you are contented. There is nothing that I do now which is for myself. I don't need any recognition. I am not looking for, if I do this I will get this. I'm no longer interested in anything. I'm very contented now. I have got everything, and so now you reach a stage where that once you have that self confidence, then you want to involve people. If somebody wants to take credit for that, it doesn't matter to me anymore. But when you are an assistant professor, it does matter. It matters. But once you reach a certain stage, you reach a different stage in life when you don't mind sharing the credit. You don't mind giving somebody the full credit, because you no longer in that you want to hog everything kind of a mode. So, but that one needs to reach. Unfortunately, not everybody reaches those stages, and from beginning to the end, it's I, me, myself, and you don't want to work with anyone because I want all the credit for myself. And I know faculty where if their PhD students go and talk to another supervisor, they have a big issue with the students, which is I never had that. In fact, at IIT Bombay, fortunately, the group where I worked, we had a large number of PhD students, and we had about a dozen faculty in that area. So at least when I was there, it was like you can talk to anyone in the 12 people, right? And if I may be somebody else student, but they come and discuss with me, and my students go and discuss with somebody. We used to have weekly group meetings where students come and present. That was a very great culture I had in that group. It doesn't exist even in IIT Bombay, not in all departments, not in all groups. But thanks to people like my supervisor, Professor Vasi, there is Professor Dinesh Sharma, there was Professor Chandorkar who passed away recently. Professor Rakesh Lal, some of them were in that mode of working. They never, thought of themselves so much. It was always about giving back. It was always about involving people, building a collaborative culture. So since I have started my career in that culture and worked in such a culture for a very long time, so I think, while I have gained so much out of that sort of a thing, but I also now, gave so much to others in the process. So I think I'm fine. I mean, these are all things which you don't really plan, right? So I have seen my students exactly similar potential, but joining two different IITs and evolving very differently. So I think sometimes, you are lucky to be in that kind of a place or space at that time. And not everybody may be as lucky as I am.
Ecosystem matters a lot.
Ecosystem matters a lot. And in my case, I think I got lucky. I mean, I went to the best people in the world. I worked in the best groups in India, and I was groomed by some of these people, and I tried to be like them. And so I think, I got lucky. I mean, of course, luck favors those who are prepared and all of that. I also worked very hard, and I think whatever opportunities that came my way, I made the best use of it. Very often I also see many people not doing that. They join some place, but they wanted something else, but they make a mess of wherever they have joined. They don't want to do anything because, I'm always looking for something next. I was not like that. I started very small, but wherever I was, I always say that any place I worked, I can go back there any day because I left a, good impression there. And those people would take me any day that I want to go back to those places. And therefore, never burn bridges. So the life is short. You come across the same people again and again, and whatever you do, however small it may be, I think we should give our full 100%. Doesn't matter what the job is, and that is the thing that will take you to the next level. So because anywhere you go, you leave that positive impact that carries you to the next position, and that is how you grow in life and do great things. So.
Wonderful, sir, and very appropriately said. And these are the true values that everyone should imbibe. So, sir, all during these years, how do you see that your family values and family support and mentor support, as you already told us, shaped you as a researcher? What part your family played during all
No, in my village, small town, Kolhapur, I grew up in a joint family. I've always seen 15 people in my house. So it was never, two people, no nuclear kind of a thing. And we used to have guests every day. And it was a large family. When we were growing up, we were cousins and all of us were together in the same house. We used to dine together, 15 people dining every day. And so I grew up in that culture. And so sharing comes very naturally in the joint families. And so I had a very good upbringing. I mean, no complaints at all. We did everything that a child should do at that age. And fortunately for us in that age, there were no TVs, there were no mobile phones, there were no distraction. So the only thing is you go out in the evening and play. So that's how it was, and it was a lot of fun. And I have many great childhood memories. And then, in Telangana state, I was there. It was a combined Andhra, of course, at that time. So I lived in that state till my BTech time. So after that, I moved to Bombay and then to various other places in the world. But so that upbringing as a child, was very pure and very unassuming, and it was beautiful. I have no complaints at all about my childhood. We did not have enough of anything because we were a lower middle class kind of a family, where 15 people living together. So we never had enough of anything. That scarcity was always there. But it was not that we did not have something what we wanted. I mean, everything in limited proportions. If you have sweets, you have sweets once a month, not every day or anything like that. And
then only we value things.
Exactly. And even when you have sweets, it's not that entire sweet box is given to you. So one box used to come from whenever my father used to go to Hyderabad, and that small sweet box he would bring, and there will be 15 people that will be distributed equally among all the people. And you want more, but then everybody has to have the same share. So that was the way it was, and but it was good. I have no complaints about it. So I'm very grounded thanks to my upbringing, good moral values and all of that. So I don't think any of us made anything wrong or did anything wrong knowingly. So I think that was not the culture. You are always good to people, try to see everybody happy. Whatever good you can do, you do, and that kind of an upbringing. Because that's how, I have benefited. I had great mentors everywhere. And I haven't even asked for anything like that, but I got all of that on a platter. So I should do the same thing to others. So I think I would like to believe that I am, looking at number of students who want to work with me, both at IIT Bombay or anywhere else. I think I have been a good mentor, good support system for many of my students, and all of them are in touch with me. And I think it has always been very beautiful. I have no complaints.
So, sir, considering the semiconductor research and the impact of and the nanoelectronics, especially in relation to India's position and or at the global stage, how do you see we will progress in near future?
I think India has been trying to establish these semiconductor foundries. This is probably the third time, we are trying the same thing. Hopefully, we will be lucky this time. And I think having these semiconductor fabs is important for multiple reasons. It establishes an ecosystem, for semiconductor manufacturing, and out of that will also come academic, research and all of that. Because whatever I worked as part of my semiconductor research, I only worked with these companies abroad. If it was Intel, it was Intel in the US, and if it was Infineon, Infineon in Germany. So because I always, I was always connected with the parent companies in their countries, and so that's how I could do so much of my work. And but now that India is establishing these foundries, hopefully it will happen this time. I think a lot of research that is happening in the country today will have meaning. Because now you know that if I do something, I can actually work with this foundry here and make a difference. So that is one difference between semiconductors and the automobiles. In the automobile space, nothing much really changes. The technology is still the same. I mean, of course, now electric vehicles, some of these have changed that, but otherwise the same IC engine, was what was used everywhere. And so automobiles, one could establish a large industry base without so much of research happening in academia. But semiconductors, you cannot do that. It has to be closely linked because technologies are changing every 2 years. And now every time technology changes, if you have to go out and shop for a new technology, it's not going to be viable. So you establish a base technology, then connect with the academia here. There's a lot of talent in academia, and then start to engage them so that they can be the suppliers of your next generation technologies or whatever tweaking that you need to do for the existing technology. That is a model. So academic collaborations are very, very important for the semiconductors, unlike in any other kind of an area. So that's one thing. And India also has a lot of scope for its own technologies. For example, I have been advocating India getting into sensor technologies. The market for sensors, which is what in industry parlance is called IoT, the Internet of Things kind of technology, where you have a sensor, you have the communication, you have the battery, you have everything integrated into a node, which is what you call IoT. That market is going to be $1 trillion. Right, and according to any predictions and anything you see, by 2032 to 2035 time frame, that market will cross $1 trillion per year, and that what it means is over 1 trillion such sensors will be sold every year. That's a huge market. The entire semiconductor industry today is about 600 billion, 700 billions. The sensors market alone will be $1 trillion, and that is where India can find its feet. I mean, that is something where there is lots of good research happening in the sensors area in the country. And in fact, I recently wrote about it, and almost we are ranked 5th in the world right now in terms of sensors research. But much of that research, doesn't see the light of the day. And that's because there is no industry, there is nothing, not many can start companies like what I did. And that's a big challenge that we have right now.
So, sir, how to solve this?
So I have been working with ministries. Now we want to create a sensor hub, right? And then get all these technologies which are happening in the academic institutions, which are at a TRL 3-4, a proof of concept level, and then get those technologies to this hub, bring people who have capability to take the TRL to TRL 8 kind of a thing, and the right set of people with that experience. So around these proof of concepts, you then build the teams and then let them commercialize it either through startups or through industry collaborations or licensing to industries. So the TRL 4 to 8 is the gap. That's the valley of death, anywhere in the academia, because academia can at most come up to proof of concept level. and industry wants a finished kind of a product. So industry doesn't get interested in something which is at a very preliminary kind of a stage. But who will do the things in between? That has been the...
Somewhere the role of incubation centers can...
But incubation centers in India have mostly been, they give you a lab, a small room, they give you a computer, a table, that's it. They don't really give you all the facilities needed. They don't provide you the expertise needed to build a product. So that kind of an expertise doesn't exist in any of these incubators. As a result, a lot of technologies fall to that valley of death and you never hear about them. So what is needed in the country is to create those kind of labs, right, which can take this TRL 3, 4 from academia and then take them to 7, 8, 8, 9 and then churn out companies or products. So that is a kind of a bridge that we need to provide now, and I have been advocating that, and I have been working with ministries, and I think India needs to do that. If we don't do that, very little research will see the light of the day. And then government complaining that nothing much is happening. Nothing much will happen because there is this valley which we need to bridge now, and that can only happen by creating those institutions which can do that. So many countries have that. In Taiwan, in Singapore, in the US, in Europe, there are many labs which actually do that, the TRL bridge kind of a thing. India hasn't created any such institution so far.
But that is very necessary, sir.
Very necessary. Ideally, in my opinion, CSIR labs should be doing that, because CSIR should be that bridge between academia and industry. But unfortunately, CSIR are also become more academic-like than industry-like. And so I think, and they also are very inward-looking. They develop their own technologies and commercialize, but they are not connected with academia as much as what they should be. So if you ask me, most of the TRL CSIR labs should be on academic campuses, right? And then, connect with academia much more strongly than what they are doing. Not just work on their own technologies, but also take technologies from academia and then on the other hand, connect them with the industry by, developing prototypes out of this academic proof of concepts. So these are certain things that we, structurally we need to create. Unless we do that, this problem will remain the way it is. Right?
So, sir, how do you see that now India is gaining the momentum, that many of the startups are coming up and all these things are happening? So what is the consensus of students? Do they want to stay and or come back here, or the consensus is towards go out and then join the other company?
IIT Delhi, we did that survey once. Less than 5% of students are going abroad out of the BTech batches. So and there was a time when almost 80% of students used to go abroad. Now it has come down to 5%.
So
if you look at if you look at all these startups in the country, right, 107 unicorns, almost 2/3 of them have come out of these students who have stayed back in the country, whether it is from BITS Pilani, the institution I head now, or IITs. Almost 2/3 of these companies have come out of these alumni who stayed back in the country, who otherwise would have gone abroad. For example, BITS Pilani has 13 unicorns among its alumni. So some of these things are beginning to happen, but it's mostly BTechs who are getting into entrepreneurship. And with a BTech degree, you don't really know anything much, right? So the kind of problems you can solve are also very limited with a BTech kind of an understanding. So they have done very well when it comes to fintech. They have done very well when it comes to this aggregation kind of a model, whether it is Ola or Flipkart and all of that. So some of these sectors they have done very well. But e-commerce, they have again done very well. But if it comes to deep technologies, where you are solving the farmer's problem to a technology solution, right? That you cannot do with a BTech kind of a degree. You need much deeper understanding of these areas, or you want to develop a product for quantum communications. You can't do that with a BTech degree. You need higher degrees, or you want to solve something using nanotechnology. These kind of areas will require a much deeper understanding of these subjects. A BTech student, doing a startup will not have the necessary understanding of, these areas, so can connect even the solutions to those problems kind of a thing. That is where, the problem lies right now, because students are, though they are staying back, they are not pursuing any higher education. So they are all, settling down with a BTech degree, and they are all in a hurry to, earn money, start companies, build unicorns. That you can only do in e-commerce, fintech, and these kind of areas. You cannot do that in deep technology kind of startups, because it takes time to actually develop, full technology which is unique and which is patented, where you have the IP and all of that. So that sort of areas, there aren't any in the country right now. There is not a single deep technology unicorn, right? Which is a technology platform, like using nanotechnology or biotechnology or quantum technology. I think that requires a different kind of a mindset, and hopefully, that will also happen, because everybody was after these low-hanging fruits until now, which was okay. I mean, all these unicorns that have come about were required, but now time has come for us to get into areas where there is a higher barrier for entry, right? I mean, for example, for one Flipkart, there are at least 5 Snapdeal kind of companies which are trying to copy that model and execute that, and there the first mover has an advantage, and so that sort of copying happens. But in technology areas where the barrier for entry is very high, it doesn't happen. Google had no competition, right? Because that is such a deep algorithm for searching that nobody could compete with Google for so many years. Now ChatGPT has become a competition for them. So ChatGPT will have its reign for some more time. So I think India needs to get into areas where there is a barrier for such entry and others cannot copy so easily. So I think time has come for us to in a way motivate our students to get into, for example, the nanotechnology or biotechnology or quantum technology or cognitive technologies, and then use these platforms to solve problems and then build companies. So that sort of a time has come right now.
So, sir, what exactly is lacking to this? You can say the advancement from BTech to MTech to PhD and all.
I think
it is due to the infrastructure that we don't have the enough seats to support all the BTech, or
it's a culture. I think when they see a Flipkart becoming successful, Flipkart in a way set a trend for the unicorns. Flipkart is an IIT Delhi company. It came out of this institute. So the Binny Bansal, Sachin Bansal, all of these guys have started Flipkart, and so then gained that unicorn status. And that looking at that model, so many more started doing that. So it's a kind of a phase that we had until now, and so that whatever Flipkart did for all these things, people applied it for other kind of things and built similar kind of unicorns. But now, I think we need to move to the next generation of such a technology startups, and that can only happen with more and more students pursuing these deep technology areas, and that could be either through going to higher education, learning in the schools, or working for an industry for a period of time and learning all of these technologies and come out and start companies. I'm confident, slowly over a period of time that will begin to happen.
IIT and also now at BITS, and these two are eminent institutions of India. So they are now establishing their campus at different countries also, like Dubai also and other countries also. So in your opinion, what all areas these institutions need improvement to IIT institutions?
There are many things that need to be done. The one problem with our good institutions in the country is they are very inward looking, right? If you look at the world rankings, the places where we lose our points for ranking, one is the internationalization. We don't have enough international students, international faculty. There, on an average, I recently did a study. The top 5 IITs get about 3 points out of 100 points, 3 out of 100. That's where we lose that. The second thing is perception. Perception is about 40 to 60% weightage in international rankings. There again, all our 5 top institutions get about 20 marks out of 100 marks. Okay. Again, we lose a lot of marks there, and so these are the things which are pulling us down in terms of international rankings. So I think this internationalization of Indian education is very good. That will, what it will do is, I have written about it in newspapers and all that. So, for example, imagine an institute here starting a campus abroad, right? And then the local government helps in capital expenditure. Yes. So capex comes from there. So you need to go to countries where that is possible. Otherwise, it's going to be a struggle, because the public money in India cannot be taken to those countries to build a campus. So that will be a challenge. So go to countries where such a assistance can be provided. You build the capex. They provide the capex for you, and then you build a campus. You start admitting students, right? And because these are in countries where a lot of international students can come and they can, take admissions to SAT and other international kind of practices. And don't give BTech degree, because BTech degree in an IIT is through the JEE Advanced. So in those countries you give a BS degree. US universities anyway give a 4-year BS degree. So offer these BS programs there and then admit students from all over the world. Right? And my point always is, of course, the running expenses, OPEX needs to come from the tuition fee and other activities that are carried out there. So you don't go to even the local government for OPEX thing. So that is self-supporting kind of institutions. And then you bring those students to the main campus in India, right? At least for a semester, right? So if you bring them for a semester or two, then those large number of students who have got admitted there, coming and staying on our campuses here, will do multiple things. One thing is they will pay a slightly higher fee. After all, because they have joined there, they pay a higher fee. We will have some revenues coming in here because they are studying, so they pay that same fee here, the higher fee. And secondly, our international student count will go up. But they are spending a semester here. What it means is now suddenly you have, let's say, 500 international students coming and staying with you. That counts for rankings. So that way your rankings will go up, your revenues will go up. All these students mingling with the Indian students, there will be a cultural diversity on the campus. So that is what is important. Otherwise, you start a campus there, just run it entirely there. What difference will it make? You cannot bring that money to India, and it will actually not be of any help. In fact, I wrote the first letter to Ministry of Education in 2020 asking for permission for IIT Delhi to create such a campus in the Middle East. And then that letter, they sent it to, because that time nobody knew how to do that. It went to Law Ministry and then ended up with PMO, and then the Prime Minister announcing it as part of, some international meetings and all of that. So that's what it actually started. But therefore, I think that big vision is important. Why are we doing it needs to be very clear in everybody's mind. So it should improve our rankings, it should improve our revenues, and it should improve the perception of Indian institutions in those places. If you are not achieving all of these objectives, and also the cultural diversity on our campuses, if we are not achieving all these objectives, then it will be like also ran kind of a thing, and may not yield the same results as what one would like out of that place. So I think that's what I hope leadership in these institutions will take cognizance and make these international campuses connected with the main campuses. The connections are very important.
So sir, as BITS have its campus in Dubai, so do they also run these exchange programs of students?
Right now we are not doing, but I am looking at that right now. So BITS Dubai, we are now completely revamping the campus there in terms of the program offerings, in terms of what they need to do in that location. Because very often the mistake again that happens is you set up a campus there and you apply the template of whatever is happening there to that campus. But that's not what those campuses require. In Dubai, nobody is interested in civil engineering, but they are interested in infrastructure management, right? So Dubai is all about management and that kind of areas, computer science, cyber security. So because these are hubs there for all of those. So you need to do a survey of what that location needs, what the people there require, what is the greatest demand. For example, in Dubai, we did a survey recently, and we found out all of that 70% of students who go to universities in Dubai are looking for management kind of an education. Only 30% are interested in hardcore engineering kind of disciplines. So now you start a campus there with chemical engineering, civil engineering, mechanical engineering. Then if there are 10 campuses, you are competing for that 30% of students, and then the fee and other things become a challenge. You are not even able to fill up all of your seats. You cannot survive there, and then everybody will say that it was a failure and all of that. Therefore, leadership is very important to make these campuses successful. And just because MIT did not do that doesn't mean IITs cannot do that. I mean, we need it. MIT doesn't need that. Now we need them. We need that perception change. We need to improve our international rankings. We need revenues. All of that. We need cultural diversity on the campuses. So we have a need to do that. MIT doesn't need to start a campus in India or anywhere in the Middle East and everything. So we have a requirement, but that's where I believe doing it strategically and with enough of care and with enough planning, with enough strategic kind of interest, it will be successful. I have a feeling leadership is key.
So sir, is there any incident which which you say that this is the turning point of my career and just shift?
I think, of course, as Steve Jobs said, you can only connect the dots by looking backward. So that now that I've lived, some life, I can connect the dots. I think coming to IIT Bombay was a turning point for me. If I had not gone to IIT Bombay, I don't think what I would have done. And also, even in IIT Bombay, working with the supervisor with whom I worked, Professor J. Vasi, was a very critical thing that happened, which was not even in my hands. It all happened destiny or whatever you may call it, but it happened by accident, and that I got to work with him, and we both clicked so well. In fact, I wrote, he again is a very famous professor, wrote lots of papers, guided so many students, but I still wrote the maximum number of papers with him. So because I collaborated with him for the longest period of time, and we just clicked, so I think whatever you may call it, like I said, but I think working with him, going to IIT Bombay was a turning point. Working with him was the bigger turning point. And even if I had gone to IIT Bombay, if I did not work with him, many things I have done subsequently wouldn't have happened. So I think, there was some connection of dots that happened there.
So, sir, as the director of IIT Delhi and also your role at IIT Bombay, you have played a pivotal role in fostering the innovation and research. And so how do you approach creating an environment which is conducive to research and innovation, so within these academic institutions?
I always at IIT Bombay, there were very few people like me who were working on prototype oriented research, product oriented research, starting companies. So I always believed connecting, this high end research to the grassroots problem. But that's where, these technologies become very important. So with satellite technologies, you can do so many things, right? Even Chandrayaan mission should open up, new vistas for the problems on the ground here. So that is what actually needs to happen. And I believed in that very strongly. And but I wanted to bring that culture and implement it at an institutional level. So when I moved to IIT Delhi, otherwise, I was very happy in my job at IIT Bombay. I was not even looking for any such position. I was, doing research. I was getting recognitions, and everything was fine. So, but I felt that, I need to show how it can be done and what needs to be done. So I took up this position. I, basically out of frustration that we have gotten into a mode, education anyway, you disseminate knowledge which is available in textbooks and research papers, and then you generate new knowledge by publishing papers. So we just stop there. But I thought, the third angle to any institution needs to be the innovation. So innovation is generation of wealth out of this knowledge. So unless you translate that knowledge, the wealth does not get generated, and that is when you complete the loop. Otherwise, you take government money, publish a paper, who has benefited from that? So that research that you do, that knowledge that you create, needs to go back, solve a problem, create wealth that flows back into the research, and that is how the research becomes sustainable over a period of time. So I wanted to complete that circle. Therefore, when I moved to IIT Delhi, I did, and I realized from my own personal experience that if you want to move ahead and not just stop with publications, multidisciplinary culture is very, very important in the institutions. And I found that at IIT Delhi, not many were collaborating with each other. So the first thing I did was to start a program called Faculty Interdisciplinary Research Programs, FIRP I called it. And we said that anyone who collaborates with anyone outside of their discipline, institute will give 5 lakhs to each of them for 2 years.
That is a good plan.
And so once we incentivized people to go out of their comfort zone and collaborate, there were huge number of proposals submitted. And then we funded in the first round about 60 projects. And then that involved over 100 faculty. So they started working with each other, receive this money, take a PhD student, a biology faculty member working with a mechanical faculty member, chemistry person working with electrical engineering. So those collaborations happened. And we put only one condition, that after doing that kind of a collaboration, after 2 years, you have to necessarily go out and write a proposal to an external agency. So if you don't do that, then your project is not considered successful, because we also don't have infinite resources internally. So whatever we invest is kind of a seed grant. So people need to go out and generate more money, and then that comes back to the institute and all of that. So we made it as a conditional kind of a support, and many people went out and then started getting more projects from outside. IIT Delhi, when I joined, was doing about 60 to 100 crores of research. When I left, IIT Delhi was doing 200 to 300 crores of research per year. So we were able to increase the the sponsored research projects by almost like 4x, because we brought people together and they were all asked to write more proposals. Once it was successful within the system, then we said, why don't we do that with institutions outside? Yes. Then I met with AIMS director. We said, AIMS director said, I will fund my faculty. We fund you fund your faculty. Let them collaborate. So we started again a large number of projects between IIT Delhi and AIMS. And the same thing I did with at least 8 institutions in Delhi. And starting with DRDO, we created a DRDO Center of Excellence. DRDO funded almost 300 crores for research in IIT Delhi, and we had over 100 faculty and students working on DRDO defined problems. And so I call it, bringing unlike minds together. So the innovation happens, ideas come only when unlike minds come together. If you are an electrical engineer only collaborating with other electrical engineers, you will not have new ideas. After some time, you run out of ideas, keep doing the same thing and all of that. But if you are an electrical engineer working with, let's say, a chemist, right, then a lot of interesting things can be done. So unlike I say in terms of disciplines, multiple disciplines coming together, unlike in terms of cultures, international collaborations. During my time, we started 2 joint PhD programs with universities abroad and we scaled them up. We created 500 PhD fellowships for international students to come and do PhD at IIT Delhi.
Okay. So we have such programs.
We have that program right now. So we called it International PhD Fellowship Program, IPFP, and so we started, attracting international students to come and do PhD students. So we had 30-40 students, so we took it to a few hundreds of students, and so international collaborations, and also people with different attitudes. That's the third kind of unlike minds. Attitudes is different industry collaborations, industry and academia collaborations. During my time, we created a Dean of Corporate Relations office. We staffed that office with people who have experience in collaborating with industry. And then we created an industry day every year. We said one day in a year, institute will just open its doors for industry professionals. We scaled up that event to almost like 400 people attending that event every year from industries. So some of these, gave rise to a lot of collaborations with different institutions across the departments and with industries. I think once people came out of their comfort zones, started collaborating with each other, we could see a spurt in the activity.
So is there any plan of running such type of a program with the university system? So to revamp the universities, because many of the students are dependent on the university, and there the funding and the research environment is not that.
I think we should do that, but after that faculty interdisciplinary programs that I started here, funded programs, then I said, now there are ideas, but how do you, take them to the next level? So we started an incubation program, FIRE we called it, Faculty Innovation and Research Driven Entrepreneurship. We said any faculty member wanting to start a company, institute will give you the first seed grant. Institute will be the angel investor in that company. These are all equity investments.
This initiative is, landmark, because in most of our institutions, there is a condition that if you are serving this institution, you cannot be part of any other startup or any other this thing. So this
so that's a challenge here. So we called this program FIRE, FIRE, and we encouraged more faculty startups. And these are all equity investments we made. And so these were all, and we made policies for faculty to become entrepreneurs. We even started giving sabbaticals to faculty so they can work for their companies. So a lot of such things we did. And so that way the idea is to generate new ideas and support both faculty and students to work as teams, and then, take them to a level and then start a company. So more faculty and led startups. And so we funded a lot of student projects too. I started during my time a program called 1, 2, 3, 4 Discover and Learn. So the challenge that I saw was both at IIT Bombay and here was students come work with you for some time, then time for them to graduate. They bring things up to a certain level, they graduate. With the next batch of students come, there is no continuity, right? And everything starts new, everything ends at the same level. So I said, let's run them in the relay mode. So every group of students will have one first year, one second year, one third year, one fourth year. We call it 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then when the final year student graduates, a first year student comes in and then take up that same project. It continues for a longer period of time. We started conducting exhibitions in IIT Delhi out of those projects. Many of those projects have ended up as startups now. And so these were the things, teaching students how to work as a team and providing that continuity of funding, for the teams and encouraging more faculty startups I think, patents, for example, when IIT Delhi was filing 30 patents, 40 patents per year, and during my time, we took it up to 175 patents per year. And that was because we again made the rules simpler for filing patents. These are exactly the same things I have done in BITS Pilani. So BITS Pilani, we started that 1, 2, 3, 4 program as what we call the Sparkle. And we are again promoting faculty entrepreneurship in BITS Pilani, and for a lot of students to work with each other. And then we just announced a program called Cross-Disciplinary Research Framework, CDRF, and Mr. Birla, the Chancellor, so we have been able to get 15 crores per year to spend on such projects. That kind of resources I did not have in IIT Delhi, but still we could do a lot of things. So there we are now investing 15 crores just to bring people together, from different disciplines, different cultures, different attitudes to come together, work as a team.
But within BITS or
so right now we are doing it with across the BITS campuses to start with. Here also we started with first at IIT Delhi and then we moved out to other colleges. So in BITS we started it across the campuses. In the first round we are funding about 140 faculty members under the CDRF scheme, and we have received about over 100 proposals from students under that 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of a frame. So a lot of things which were successful here is what I am implementing in BITS, and I think this is what is needed at the national level. I have also been telling, I have spoken with the secretary, DST and all of them, we should do that at the national level. For example, all this research culture exists only in IITs right now, or IASc and top institutions. But you go down to the second tier, third tier institutions, the culture is not there. I said, why don't we start a program at the national level where that funding is available only if an IIT faculty member joins hands with somebody, let's say top 20 NIRF ranked institutions, need to collaborate with, let's say 100 to 125 ranked institutions. Only when they collaborate and write a proposal, this funding will be available to you. So once you start connecting, institutions at different brackets with each other, the faculty, and provide funding to them, a lot of things will happen. This culture will slowly get percolated to those.
What is the status of these programs?
I don't know. I mean, I have no role to play at the national level. So, but these are the kind of things, I have always suggested whenever I had an opportunity. But that's what India needs to do. Otherwise, a handful of institutions being excellent and doing all this research, while a large chunk of 95% of them doing nothing much significant in that direction, is not going to take us anywhere. We build these kind of islands of excellence, but that islands of excellence need to now connect, and that culture needs to percolate. And that won't happen by just preaching these people, telling IIT faculty that go and work with them. Why will they do? Because they're all busy. But you provide them funding to do that, I can tell you a lot of them will go and do that. So we need national schemes, national funding opportunities for all these top faculty in top institutions to collaborate with institutions which are not, so well endowed, right? And I think that culture needs to percolate, which is very important for a large country and for a diverse country like India.
Very valid points, sir. Very valid points. So I have covered most of your vision and all. So lastly, what is your advice to the young researchers and entrepreneurs looking to bridge the gap between academia and industry, or a student who want to pursue research or technology as their career?
No, I have said many things as part of my discussion with you. So I think whatever we do, right, we should do a good job. That is very important. And all this craze for I want to do only computer science and I want to do BTech and then do startup. Students come with closed minds, right? When a student enters IIT right now or enters BITS, they have already decided what they want to do with their life. That is such a disaster. Because closed minds are like closed parachutes. They don't function, right? For a parachute to function or mind to function, they need to be open, right? That open mind is therefore very important. So come to these great institutions, whether it's BITS or IIT kind of places, look at all the opportunities available for you and then decide what you want to do. So don't come with this preconceived notion that I want to do this BTech here and then do a MBA and then find this job. I think once you have decided on that path, then nothing else excites you, and then you just become like anybody else. So that stereotype kind of a thing is a big challenge in the country right now. That FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? If their senior batch has done that, this entire batch wants to do the same thing. But that is, ruining the country. They are also ruining their own careers. How many students out of these institutions you hear back about them, right? 95% of them, you don't even know what they have done with their lives. Such brilliant people, so many opportunities, but they have really done nothing with their lives. I think that is what needs to change in the country. I want to see people who take risks, because after a degree from one of these top institutions, you have enough security to try out new things. If a student of an IIT or a BITS doesn't take risks, right, who will do that? Somebody coming out of a small unknown college cannot anyway do that, because you don't know, if I got a job, if I don't take up a job, I don't even know whether I will get a second job or not. But students coming out of these top institutions have enough of insurance in their lives now. They should pursue higher education. They should look at becoming job providers. They should do things which are different from the rest of the class. Each one of them should chart their own path, and then try out different things. And if everything else fails in the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you can of course come back and find a job, and who will deny you a job after all. But not many are taking that risk, unfortunately, because everybody wants that computer science, because that's what gets you a job after BTech, right? Or which discipline which can get you a job after BTech? Only computer science, right? Other disciplines after BTech would not have jobs. But then you pursue higher education in biotechnology, do a PhD. Biotechnology is all about healthcare and everything. So you can now innovate, you can do new things, you can start companies, and you can build big enterprises out of them. There are so many opportunities. The human disease is such a big thing for the humankind. But then they don't want to do all of that. It's always a shortcut that you do BTech in computer science, so you can find a job and then live the rest of your life just doing that anyway. So that sort of a mindset needs to come in right now. And so I hope to see the kind of talent that we have among students. Some of them at least utilizing that potential they have, living their life after fully utilizing that potential, and become role models for others. So that time has come for India. Otherwise, everybody doing the same thing over and over again is not going to take us anywhere. We cannot find so many jobs in IT. After some time these areas will saturate. We are not innovating enough in biotechnology.
Especially after AI.
Exactly. So how many new companies have come out of biotechnology? How many new companies have come out of nanotechnology? How many have come out of ChatGPT kind of cognitive technologies? How many have come out of quantum technology? Hardly any. Everything is IT, e-commerce, because that is all what a BTech student can do. But I think I hope to see many more innovations in those sectors where there is so much of untapped potential. These technologies are so powerful. They can solve so many problems of the humankind, but we are not pursuing them because we are not even reaching that stage where we even understand what these technologies are.
So sir, any special drives or programs to encourage these areas?
I think PhD programs in some of these areas need to be encouraged. PhD entrepreneurship is very important, which in India we have not seen at all.
True, sir.
No, hardly even 1% of PhDs are getting into entrepreneurship. And I think they are the students who we need to orient their work towards entrepreneurship and startup culture. That has not happened, and that will happen only when you create schemes to support them. At IIT Delhi, we tried that. We started a PhD incubator, a capital P, capital H, capital D. We called it Platform for Harnessing Deep Technologies. Because after PhD, what do you need? You are at 26, 27 kind of an age group, and family wants you to get married. You need to settle down. And that time, if you tell somebody, go and start a company, they are not going to be happy about it. So we said, out of your PhD work, for you to start a company, not every PhD work can result in a company, but after your PhD work, for you to start a company in some areas, right? How much time you need? Let's say 18 months or 2 years. For that time, we will provide you a fellowship, right? That fellowship will cover all your requirements. So we also started doing it in Sonipat, a residential incubator, where you can stay with your spouse and build the company there itself. So we provided them accommodation, we provided them stipend, hoping that some of them will, continue their PhD work, build a prototype and commercialize that. We bring in industries, bring in alumni. That was the whole plan. So we started that PhD incubator, but then my term ended and I moved on. But these are the programs we need to do at the national level. So, and in the BITS now, we just announced a program. That's the same idea I'm continuing in BITS now. We are calling it PhD Drive. The drive is deep tech research, right? Innovation, value creation, and entrepreneurship. So we want to orient more and more PhD students towards becoming entrepreneurs. So we are actually admitting students into the PhD Drive program. Only those who have the aptitude to start a company, or those who have an idea and they want to use the resources available in bits to start a company. So now I've already got at least over 10, expressions of interest from venture capitalists, from corporates to associate with us. So we were also paying a higher stipend to these students, 60,000 rupees per month as compared to 40K that many students, regular students receive. And we are admitting students now, who have that aptitude to start a company. So that is a program which we want to that program PhD drive, we want to start at least 100 deep tech startups in the next decade, and that is the goal. And we want to scale it up further. And so these are the things that are required. Otherwise, PhD today means becoming a university professor. All our training is geared towards producing university professors out of PhD. How many faculty positions are available? So you will never be able to engage all of them in faculty positions. 90% of them need to find their own avenues outside of academia, and that can happen only when they get into entrepreneurship, create jobs for others. So otherwise, every PhD needs to find a job, it's not going to work. So they need to become job providers, and that can only happen when they get into this entrepreneurship, and that requires a complete mindset change. And even the institutions, need to provide them the training, and then orient them, put them on such problems. All of that is what we are doing, attempting in BITS now. I am confident it will be a successful program. It has gained a lot of traction. Many people want to connect with us on that. That's one thing. I hope it will change the culture of PhD programs in the country as we move forward.
Sure, sir, and it definitely will change the culture. And slowly, I hope the university system also took inspiration, and then they also adapt these type of policies. And with this, I extend my heartfelt thank you to you, sir. Thank you so much for taking out time for this interaction. It's an eye opener for me also as an researcher.
Thank you. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.